then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And the harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. So, the last 3 weeks, or I guess last week, Costa was here. Tonight, I got a note from him. He's down in Alabama this week. But we had 3 weeks talking about the danger of the tongue and the danger that it causes to our brothers or sisters, the danger it causes within the church. And now he closes this chapter, this section, with a discussion of our motivations. Now, our motivations are our desires, and it's our desires that drive our actions. And generally, James is always focusing on action, talking about being a doer. But now he's talking about what lies underneath those actions, talking about the heart and what motivates us to do these things. Because sometimes we can do the right thing for the wrong reason. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. This is that lower part of the iceberg. We see somebody do something and we think, oh, that's who they are. But sometimes there's this structure underneath that's not visible. And that is what drives our choices, drives our decisions, or as James says, drives our works. And he starts off this with another rhetorical question like he's been using throughout his letter as he transitions to this new theme. And in verse 13, he says, who of you, and so he's talking rhetorically to everybody, who of you are wise and have understanding? And so basically, these two, wise and understanding, they're kind of synonyms. The wise person is, this comes from the word to be skilled, good at doing something. The quote in the lexicon said, forming the best plans and using the best means for their execution. Wisdom helps us get stuff done better and quicker. It's the right way. Whereas understanding is intelligent, experienced. But both of them are who is behaving properly, who says that they know better. Who is the person who puts themselves forward and says, I got this. And so he's saying, who of you are like that? And then he says, let him show or reveal, make visible, expose to our eyes so that we can see. You say that you have wisdom. You say that you have understanding. Show us your wisdom and your understanding by your good behavior. Your beautiful walk is literally what it is. The behavior, just like when we're looking at in Ephesians, where he's talking about live a life worthy. It's walk in accordance with the calling that you have received. And so show us your wisdom, show us your understanding by your day-to-day behavior. How you walk at work, how you walk in your family when it's just your family and nobody's around. Show us your wisdom and your understanding then. And their deeds or their actions in their gentleness or meekness of wisdom. Now, this is the same word that Jesus uses in Matthew 5:5 when he's talking about the meek inheriting the earth. So it's a wisdom that is meek. What does meek mean? Humble? Yeah. it also is the element of self-control. I heard somebody teaching one time talking about the image of meekness is a panther in a cage. It has all of that power, all of that strength, but it is under control. It's not going loose all over the place, tearing stuff down. It has self-control. Is meekness a character that is elevated in our culture today? Just the opposite. I mean, one of the shocks for me coming back, I remember where you used to get fined for spiking the football. They have got choreographers working with these guys now to do their dance after they score a touchdown. And I mean, it's embarrassing sometimes to watch it. That is not an image of meekness. But what he's saying, what James is saying here is he's equating wisdom, which people are saying they have, he's equating it with being meek. And that if you are self-controlled, if you are humble, and as we're going to see in a little bit, he starts talking about the people who are continually putting themselves forward. And that's really what he's talking about here, is the person who wants to be number one. And so he started off saying, okay, you who are saying that you're wise, you're the smartest guy in the room. If you're telling us that, that's a pretty good sign that you're not all that wise. If you're putting yourself out there, yes, sir. Yes, there's a big difference. Yeah. Yeah. And there's another kind of wisdom that's not from our experience. There's the wisdom of above that comes down. And I think that's what we're going to look at. But yeah, there's a lot of smart people who do really stupid stuff. I'm not naming names. We do. We know who we are, don't we? We know it. We've all been there. We've done it. We've done it more than once, too. So what James is saying is that if any of you think that you're wise and smart and intelligent and educated and cultured and are on the ball, don't talk about it. Live it. Live that life and show us who you are, and then you don't have to brag about it. You will be a model for us. That if you really are up here, and if you're walking that way, then we see it and we're like, man, he doesn't talk much, but I'd like to be a little bit more like him. Or even sometimes unconsciously, is that the pattern, that walk, the pathways that are formed by continual walking the same way, good habits, form pathways that other people will begin imitating subconsciously even. Maybe it'll be conscious, but it could be unconscious as well. So let him, by his good life and his good behavior, how he treats other people, how you treat your family, how you treat your husband or your wife, your children, your parents, let that reveal in the works the self-control of wisdom, that you are in control. You're not just thrashing about, jumping from one thing to another, but that you're intentional, you're in control of it. And this is familiar what he's talking about. Jesus talked about a fruit and the tree, and James had talked about that earlier. Does a grapevine give figs? Does a fig tree give grapes? Or when he's talking about the spring bubbling up, and is it giving good water or is it giving bitter, bad water? And so it's the once again, he's coming back to, don't just talk about it, don't just be hearers of the word, but be listeners and doers of the word. That what you have heard, do it. Don't just be talkers, but be doers. And then he kind of starts going in a little bit more directly. He says, but if you have, and where he had been talking about to the group, now it seems to be talking about one person in a using this one person, abstract person in an example. If you have bitter jealousy, and that is the bitter is the same word that he uses for that bad water that's coming up out of the spring, and it's pikros, and it's the image of piercing, like if you're piercing leather or something. But it's like you take a drink of water and it's so bad, so strong, it's piercing your tongue, and it's that strong bitterness, and it's the desires. Jealousy as a desire that is not good, that is controlling. And then he says, if bitter jealousy and selfish ambition. And this is one of the main keys that he's talking about. This word for selfish ambition, this was actually the word that was used during this period for electioneering or politicking for a position. That's selfish ambition in your hearts. That is the desire to get people around you to vote you into office or to support you in whatever you're wanting to do. Courting distinction, a desire to put yourself in front of everybody else, to be seen, to be noticed, to draw attention to yourself. And it creates partisanship and it creates factions, because if one person is saying I'm number one and another person's saying I'm number one, you can't have two number ones. You can't do it. And so this person is trying to get it, one person is trying to get a crowd together, the other person is trying to get a crowd together. Next thing you know, since these two people are opponents, the groups are opponents, and it divides. And in a church, that is deadly. That is absolutely deadly to have something like that. So he's saying, if you have, if you're jealousy, if you have rivalries with other people, and you are trying to draw people to yourself rather than drawing people to Christ, and this is what's in your heart, which is the seat of our innermost. See, for them, they didn't understand that we had a brain back then. They just thought this was dead space up here. Everything rested in the heart or in the kidneys. And the kidneys were like the lower desires, but the spiritual center of life was the heart. And he's saying, if in the center of your spiritual life, you are drawing all the attention to yourself, all you can think about is how people are looking at you rather than how God is looking at you, don't boast about it. Don't brag and say that you have wisdom and you have knowledge. Don't be talking like that, because it's a lie against the truth. You are lying when you say that you have wisdom and that you have understanding, when by your behavior it's obviously clear that you don't have either one. But that you are self-centered, you are self-focused. So verse 15, he describes the other kind of, what that kind of wisdom is. You're saying you have wisdom? Well, let me describe to you what that wisdom is. This wisdom that you say you have is not that which comes down from above. And that word that he's using there for from above is the same one that Jesus used in John 3:16. When he says, or in John 3, when he's talking to Nicodemus and says, you must be born from above. And Nicodemus misunderstands it because that word can mean both things. It can mean again, and it can be from above. And so Jesus is saying, Nicodemus, you're a teacher, you're a wise man, you should understand all these things. But you can't because you haven't been born from above. You haven't been born spiritually. And just as the Spirit comes down and gives us life, Spirit comes down and also gives us wisdom. The wisdom to understand that in this life right here, I don't have to be number one. I don't have to crawl over somebody's back to make myself higher than they are. That's not what comes down from above. Rather, that is earthly, meaning from worldly, of the world, first. Then it is natural, which has to do with the word is related to breathing. And so talking about the fleshly and which is due to corruption. The moment we're born, sorry to say this, Mike Jr., but you have started the process of dying. I hate to say that, but from the moment we are born, it starts. Our body starts breaking down. And we don't really start noticing until we hit like 30. And my goodness, by the time we hit 40, whoa, something happened at 40. I needed having glasses. Julie had to start talking a little bit louder, and it wasn't just because I wasn't listening anymore. Things start changing, and then 50. And I've heard rumors about 60 and 70 and 80 and all these other things. The interesting, the people, though, who make it to 80, those are some tough people. Those are some tough people. They are saints. They are absolute saints. But so the corruption process starts from the beginning, and then that breath is just transitory. It has to be done again and again and again and again, and it just disappears. It's just here. It's gone. So it's corruptible. It's transitory, and it is demonic. Proceeding from demons or unclean spirits, evil spirits. So that's the influence behind this behavior. This behavior is not coming down from above, it's coming up from below, it's bubbling up. Because that was Satan. Lucifer, that was his thing, was he wanted to be God. And when it didn't work out for him, he came to us and said, you can be like God too. He lied. But it's that putting yourself forward, that pride, instead of being humble and putting others ahead of ourselves. Verse 16, for where there is jealousy and ambition, and once again it's that electioneering or that politics. Where there is jealousy and politics, there is disorder. This is instability or confusion. Because Christ isn't the head. If Christ is the head, there can't be a number one because there already is a number one. Christ is number one. But when we take our eyes off Christ and we want to draw attention to ourselves, then that's when this disorder and chaos comes in. There is disorder in every evil thing, every foul and wicked deed. But, verse 17, so he's talked about what that spirit produces, and that produces disorder and unclean actions. But wisdom from above, wisdom coming down, is first pure. And that difference between that foul, the word that he uses for evil is phallos, which is, it's just dirty, it's foul, it's corrupted. But wisdom from above is pure, it's clean, it is holy, because God is holy. And the wisdom that he gives us is an extension of his. He's giving us his spirit. His spirit is coming into us, and his spirit is pure and holy. And it does that first. It has nothing to do with worldliness. It has nothing to do with putting himself forward. He doesn't have to put himself forward because he is everything. So he's not pushing. He's not throwing an elbow or tripping somebody or tricking somebody to get ahead. He's secure in who he is, and we need to be secure in who we are. Because if we are in him, our position is settled for eternity. Whatever he wants for us is the best possible thing that could ever be for us. We can't imagine anything better than what he has in store for us. Me, the way that he's created me and what he wants from me, Frank, Dennis, Anna, all of us, and that's where we can find our motivation to be meek and to be self-controlled. We don't have to put ourselves in because we're right where we're supposed to be. We don't need anything else than what we have. So it's first it's pure, and then it's peaceable. It's not fighting to put itself forward. It's gentle. It's reasonable. It's compliant. It gets along with people. It doesn't take offense. It's like that poster we got up there of love of 1 Corinthians 13. Love is, this is just another list of, or Galatians 5:22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit. This is what he is like. Full of mercy. That is the God of the Old Testament, and that was Jesus. He was full of mercy and good fruits. The fruit of the Spirit coming up in us. And so that dwells in us, and then it comes to maturity, and it produces fruit. And what's inside a fruit? I thought we had some farmers in here. Seeds. And what's the purpose of seeds? To produce fruit somewhere else. And it's that idea of it comes up in me, it comes to maturity, the Spirit is doing it, and then it overflows from my life into the life of others. And it starts being reproduced all around me and all around you. And this is the image of that wisdom coming down, that influence coming down. And it's unwavering. It's without hypocrisy. And then there's a promise, and I'm going a little bit long, but I'm going to finish this one up. Verse 18. And this is one that's always, this verse has never quite made sense to me, so I've kind of retranslated it a little bit. And the fruit of righteousness, because the word is karpos, which is fruit, it's not harvest. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. And so, just as earlier, he was equating wisdom with meekness, he's equating righteousness with peace. Righteousness and peace. If you know somebody, or if you find in yourself that you are not a peaceful, good night, that you are not a peaceful person, if you are not producing peace in your life, there is a righteousness issue there. Now, all of us have a righteousness issue in and of ourselves. Our righteousness is the righteousness of God that is imputed upon us because of Jesus on the cross. But when we see that there's peace issues in our relationships, that is a problem of righteousness, because the fruit of righteousness is peace. Peace is being sown, and it's producing peace around us. And that's why we strive not only for Christ's righteousness, but to live a righteous life so that we will start producing peace in our lives, and that peace will extend elsewhere. No peace, no righteousness. This is a promise that if we pursue righteousness, peace will begin to come and it will begin to spread. And it is also a spiritual law that in our lives, as we pursue righteousness, we should find peace with those around us. And part of that is because we don't have to have it our way. We can compromise. And if you ever notice, some people, when you're butting heads with people, when you compromise a little bit, that kind of puts them on the spot. And next thing you know, they got to compromise. And then you start not like compromising in the faith, but my way, your way kind of thing was, I'll give a little bit, you'll give a little bit, I'll give a little bit more, you'll give a little bit more. And next thing you know, it's a situation not of giving and taking, but of giving and giving. Just giving and giving. So that's the image that he has for us, as opposed to the people who say, I am wise and I am understanding. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's that wisdom that I would go back if I feel like God's leading me, and I would hold it up against this. Do I feel pressure to do this? Yeah. Do I feel at ease? If I feel a gentleness about it, I know it's the Lord. But if it's prideful, you know that yeah. is not the Lord speaking to you. Yeah, that's the flesh. That's the flesh. And, yeah. But I just want to bring that out. That's the Holy Spirit speaking with you in through wisdom. Yeah. Whether it's from above or below. Yeah. And that has always been, that's a litmus test. Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone a little bit long. Let's go ahead and close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the wisdom that you give us. We're grateful for your word, which teaches us. We're grateful for your spirit, which convicts us and leads us. And we're grateful for our church body, that we are able to rub shoulders with, and iron sharpening iron, to better understand how to live the life that you've given us in a way that honors you and is a blessing to those around